The Super Mario Bros. Movie has rolled out to a huge opening Wednesday, both here domestically and abroad. We've got those numbers fresh from Deadline coming up. And also, at the same time, the Walt Disney Company is watching Universal Studios sail off with the vaunted crown of family entertainment and animated feature films yet again. We're going to show you how bad it is. Here we go. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment, hit that little red subscribe button, turn it to gray, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment below the video before you head out the door today. Let's take a look at some of the brand new numbers for the Super Mario Bros. Movie. From Deadline magazine, Super Mario Bros. Mushrooming to $141 million, currently second best 5-day debut for Illumination Studios. Illumination, Nintendo, Universal's The Super Mario Bros. Movie grossed more money in its first day at $31.7 million than the 1993 live-action film made in its entire domestic run at $20.9 million. And of course, that is unadjusted for inflation. It's also close to $6 million higher than what we at Deadline were seeing and predicting on Wednesday. It's safe to say that the latest big screen treatment of the 38-year-old video game is a hit with audiences, as they gave it an A cinema score yesterday. The 3-day total is looking like $92 million, with an updated 5-day cum, domestic only, of $141 million. And that seems to jive quite nicely with the numbers we have at Rotten Tomatoes. Well, at least for the actual audiences the movie was intended for, and not a bunch of stuffy critics that don't get it. And if we click in to the all audience score, we can see it too is sitting at 96%. All critics at 54%, top critics even worse at 43%. But this is just one of those movies where the critic score is not going to mean a damn thing, and that's just fine. It seems more often than not these days that Hollywood studios have one of two choices: make a film that's going to appease critics, or make a film that's going to actually turn a profit at the box office. And fortunately for all parties financially involved in this business endeavor, they chose the latter more so than the former. They have made a movie that is apparently pleasing audiences a great deal. Once that cinema score came out at an A, you knew this thing was going to be a lock. That's one of, I think, the best measurements out there as reported by Deadline. But let's take a look at the Globe right now. $66.4 million from its first day. And I can't stress this enough, that first day was a Wednesday where very, very few schools have yet let out. That's not a full holiday. The first real full holiday we're going to see is tomorrow on Good Friday through Easter weekend, and then into next week, where Easter vacation and spring break vacation tend more often than not to coincide for most K-12 schools and even colleges and universities here in the U.S. And some may think that this movie could be very front-loaded given those numbers, but some data suggests as of right now, and again, it's still a little early, that there's a good stretch of pre-sales running into the weekends that we are still going to see a swell as we get to Friday and Saturday and Sunday this weekend. And I think we'll see a continued solid haul through next week and into the second weekend. This movie at this point, if these ratios hold up between about 50-50 domestic and international, we're probably looking at about a $300 million global take by the fifth day, the close of business on Sunday this weekend. One thing to pay particular attention to is that there are two major international markets that will not see this movie for another 3 weeks. And those two markets are arguably the home of Mario. Korea will not see the Super Mario Bros. Movie open until April 26, and Japan will not see Super Mario Bros. Until 2 days later on April 28th. Now, those markets combined, once the theatrical run has concluded there, could easily represent about $100 million in international box office haul. So we may see a lag for the first few weeks until those two huge markets for this IP open up. And then we'll see another jolt, not necessarily in the domestic numbers here in North America, but certainly in the international numbers at that point. Now, while at the time of this recording, we don't know for certain what the production budget was for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, we can, however, speculate based on recent entries from Illumination Studios. Think Minions: Rise of Gru. That was about $80 to $90 million. This movie certainly has a higher ticket because of the voice talent and the amount of voice talent that was brought in for this film, namely with people like Chris Pratt, Anna Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, and so on. This movie probably came in with at least around a $100 million price tag, maybe pushing as high as 120 to 125. But generally speaking, Illumination and Universal have done a very good job of keeping the overall budgets down on these things. And that relates to a video that we released last night, whereby Ike Perlmutter, the former chairman of Marvel Entertainment over at the Walt Disney Company, had come out to the Wall Street Journal to do an interview saying that he was outright fired. He was not let go as part of the layoffs. And in that interview, he cited one of the reasons for his clash with Disney over the years was taking them to task for the ridiculous, out-of-control budgets on their major theatrical releases, primarily at Marvel Studios where he was involved. But we have talked extensively here on Valiant Renegade that problem at the Walt Disney Company, these out-of-control budgets, spill over to almost every single studio they have. And if you want to know how bad things are for Disney right now and how good they are for places like Universal, let me show you a comparative chart of some of the biggest animated features that have hit theaters in the past 12 to 18 months. Take a look at this comparative chart. The line that's way out ahead, head and shoulders above everyone else, of course, is Minions: The Rise of Gru. That's a movie that brought in nearly $1 billion at the global box office. Just below that, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that took in just shy of $200 million in the domestic market and a little over $400 million globally. Then we go down to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which was an amazing story because that movie only had 17 days in theaters before Universal, because it's a DreamWorks picture, which Universal has the distribution rights to, only 17 days before it hit premium video on demand for rental and sales, and then a few months later made it over to Peacock on the streaming service. But if you look, where's Disney? Well, it's right there, the green line, Lightyear, one of the worst animated performing movies of the year. It barely beat out films like The Bad Guys and DC's League of Super Pets, which frankly had next to no marketing push behind them by comparison. Take a look at those global box offices. And again, apart from DC's League of Super Pets, Lightyear was the worst performing film on this bunch. But look at the production budget. A $200 million production budget for Lightyear. Every other one of these films came in under $100 million. You could have almost made 3 copies of The Bad Guys for 1 copy of Lightyear. And The Bad Guys pulled in $250 million globally to Lightyear's $218. And because the Walt Disney Company, unlike almost everything else on that list, has no dedicated window for PVOD sales and rentals, there's really very little home video and home entertainment money for these films to make after they have a short 45 to even 60-day window at the theater if they're very lucky. They go straight into Disney Plus, where it's just part of your monthly subscription. And of course, Disney Plus is still $12 billion in the hole to this point from where they started it in 2019. Now, if you're thinking there's a movie missing on there, you'd be right. It just wouldn't fit in the chart. And that would be the Disney dumpster fire that was known as Strange World, a $135+ million production budget on this film, whose marketing budget was basically stripped from it from what we heard and handed over to Wakanda Forever. Strange World only turned in $69 million at the box office. Yeah, $69 million. What did I just tell you Super Mario Bros. Did on the first day? $66.4 million. And folks, that number could easily get adjusted up a few $1,000,000 once the actual cash settles. So Super Mario Bros. Did in one Wednesday what the last Disney animated feature did in 2 months. So in other words, if we put Lightyear's box office and combined it with Strange World, that means that every other movie on that previous chart beat the combined box office of those two movies, with the exception of 1 or 2 films. And those 2 Disney movies were by far and away the most expensive to produce. Disney lost somewhere north of $300 million on those 2 films. Math is a stubborn thing, but it never lies. Disney has basically lost the crown of family entertainment, of children's entertainment. They have lost the crown of the animated feature film box office. Universal Studios, in partnership with places like Illumination and DreamWorks, are frankly eating Disney's lunch, and they're doing it for half or less the cost of what Disney is doing. And it really doesn't look like anything is going to change anytime soon, because the next major animated feature coming from Disney is a film called Elemental, which frankly looks an awful lot like Inside Out from just a few years ago, at least visually speaking. And I suspect the story is not going to be terribly different either. This is not something that's going to interest a lot of folks. Just having the Disney Animation Studios or the Pixar brand on an animated feature, it's just not enough anymore. People don't care. They've been handed too many bad movies up to this point. Meanwhile, Universal is just putting out good quality, simple family entertainment at a much lower cost, driving audiences who want to go see it to spend the dollars. Even a movie like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has turned more of a profit for Universal than virtually anything that Disney has put out in the last year. If Disney can't fix its problems soon, and I mean getting its budgets under control, and then stop cramming your movies full of socio-political messaging, stop pushing the social justice agenda on kids, parents see right through this. They've gotten so tired of it, and the box office for your films is the absolute quintessential reflection of that. Somebody better tell Mouse he needs to get his house in order real quick, because the crown has left the building. The king is dead. Long live the new king. Universal Studios. They own family entertainment now, and I don't think they're giving it up anytime soon. Coming for the theme parks next, Disney. Watch out.